Welcome back to another raspy voice episode of Kurt and his machines. Hopefully this is the last of the raspy voice episodes. I feel fantastic, I just sound like death. What this is, these are thumb studs, and what I'm doing is removing the pip from parting on the first operation. I could probably reduce that pip a little bit more, but I want the face of this thumb stud to be as flawless as I can get it, because you see it when it's on a pen, and your thumb is always interacting with it. So I don't mind having a secondary op to come through and just clean up that face. It gets polished again later on, but I just want that. I want it to look pretty, especially for the Nebula finish ones. It's a nice little canvas that shows the pretty Nebula pattern. So I don't want to have all kinds of weird tooling marks in there. So I just choose to do it in a secondary op. Use a little brass collet that I made that just goes around the threads, and it just makes it really easy to make sure everything is nice and aligned. And this was basically my day. The mill cutting grips, doing it nice and slowly because it produces a nice finish and I don't have to tend to it. I don't have to tool change it. It just works away. That's kind of the best little employee that I can have in my shop. And I'm doing all the hand finishing that the machines can't do, or can't do yet anyways.
So this is some old TPU filament. This is 3mm stuff. It wasn't like super flexible, but it's ancient. But it works really well for masking out the holes in the bolt sliders. In the past, I always screwed in little, basically just sacrificial thumb studs to protect the internal threads and all the internal features while these are being blasted. But that's tedious because it takes time to thread them in. And I was going to buy silicone wire like that they use for powder coating to protect internal features. But I have reams of this. Like I have a whole kilo of this that I just never used in the past. Yeah, so that's going to work perfect for that. And then I can just yard them out, in theory. I haven't actually done this yet. Yeah, yards out and should protect the threads. That'll save me some time.
Here I'm putting the final finish on all the thumb studs, just using a little rotary tool to buff them essentially. Even though some are going to get tumbled and some are going to get blasted, I bring them all to the same satin finish. That way I don't really have to think about it. I can just grab any thumb stud and pair it with any pen and it works out. Polishing them nicely like this is especially important for the Nebula patterns, and it's a quick enough procedure that I don't mind doing it to all of them. Plus you get a way nicer finish out of the tumbler and it takes way less time if you're not trying to tumble away a mark. Out of all tools I've bought on a whim, this is probably one of my favorites. This is a Proxxon rotary tool. I think it's called the Micromote. I think it's the smallest one they make. It's basically a micromotor wannabe tool, but it's great. Compared to a Dremel of equivalent size, it has like way more torque low down, it's much quieter, and the collets are steel, so the runout is way better. Here I'm just using it to polish thumb studs, but normally I have a little carbide burr in it, and I just use it for like general deburring, and it's pleasing to use, and it doesn't sound like the world is ending when you turn it on. So yeah, big fan of that tool. And while we're cutting grips, I may as well get springs done as well, because until I find a supplier of the springs in the size I want, I will continue to make them. This is grade 5 titanium wire. I wrap it around a mandrel. I'm pretty sure I did a video on springs already, so I won't go super into it, but the longest part of making springs is honestly clipping the ends and making it to size. I compare it to a little jig, so I'm making the same size spring. I used to also have a very complicated jig to get the coil winds correct. I've done so many now I can do it by hand fairly accurately. And if I mess one up, it's easier just to throw one out than it is to set up some complicated jig. Until I find somebody that'll make me nice titanium springs. We will continue to make them here. And here the machine is just going to cut the flute grips on the pens. Once again, this could be done much faster with a tool from the side, which is probably how I'm going to do it in the future, especially on the fluting grips where this is the only operation. Like that tool isn't going to cut any other way except lefty-righty. And I can't push that pointed tool that hard going lefty-righty because, well, it's a sharp point and you'll snap the tip off because in reference to the work, that tip is barely moving. I think I mentioned that in last day's video. Yeah, produces a nice concentric grip and I don't have to think about it. I just put it in the machine, walk away, and then I come back when it's done. I would like to redo my tailstock so I don't have to take it apart like that, but use what we have and make improvements as we go. So, job board is coming along. I have the ID polish and basically the OD polish of the pens, and we're done. Everything else is finished. Springs are ready to go. Well, I have to make a few more, but some of the springs are ready to go. I'll clean them. I'll anodize them. I don't know, probably purple. I like purple. I think next year we'll go to a new color for springs. All the thumb studs are ready to go, so they'll be cleaned as well. We can start doing the various forms of anodizing that are on those. And all the pens are just sitting there waiting for me to polish, anodize, make them pretty, and send them out to you guys. So thank you so much for the orders and for following along. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.